Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Daily Squeeze. It's been a while since we made one of these, but hey, new year, new me. What's going on, guys? Fuzz here. Brian Farr, the VP of Stock Analytics with Stock Daz. Good to be back. Good to have you. Welcome back to the Daily Squeeze, man. 2023. What a bang of a year. NASDAQ closed pretty much up about 53% on the year, but today, starting with the 2024 year, not so much of a good start. Got some interesting downgrade from Barclays on Apple. We'll get into that. Just overall, Magnificent Seven taking a hit, but healthcare names, what are those? Let's get into it. This is your Daily Squeeze. All right, let's get into things. As always, let's start out from the top down. We're going to go over the broader markets, and then we'll get into some of the sectors. We'll go over some plays that we took today as far as day trades. We'll look over some current open swings that I have on, as well as a potential setup that I have that I am currently looking at for possible swing. And I'm kind of excited about it because it was a play that did really well for me last year. So I'm looking to get into a new position here on this name, and we'll get to that at the end. So let's take a look here at the SPX. The SPX down about 0.5%, a slight gap down from the overnight session. Once we opened up, we can see that we opened up at about the 47 mark and just kind of trickled on down. Got a little bit choppy there once we got going, but ultimately started to dip down after about the lunch hour, about 1:30, and then finally at this last few minutes or so, really, we started to come back up pretty nicely. I had a nice little bounce here to close out the day, only down about 0.57% or 27 points near the opening range high. So pretty good stuff there at the daily close. Let's go check out the NASDAQ. Yeah, the NASDAQ getting a little bit hit on the chin. Barclays did a downgrade on Apple, and you can say, why in the world is anybody downgrading Apple of all things? Don't short Apple. You just get hit in the face. But, looking at the Qs here, closed down 1.69%. It was lower before that little bit of a buy program at the end there. But yeah, Barclays did do a nasty little downgrade. I wouldn't say nasty. They downgraded them to underperform. And yeah, they lowered their price target to 160 from 161. So only $1 difference there on the downgrade. But most analysts are pretty bullish on Apple. But Barclays, yeah, a little bit of a heat throw there, a fastball, I don't know, curveball there. Obviously, I'm not a baseball person. Apple nasty gap down, closing down about 3.5% on the day. As you can see, just a pretty brutal gap down. We're losing key moving averages and even closed below the daily 50 simple, and we haven't really seen that since, we haven't closed below it since October of last year. So we'll have to pay attention to see if there's any kind of follow through. If there is follow through, then the potential area to be watching out for is the daily 200, which is all the way down here at about the 180 mark. So we definitely want to pay attention to Apple in the coming days. Obviously, if we look at the entire Magnificent Seven, we can see that the Magnificent Seven had a tough go just in general with the NASDAQ. As you can see, like I said, Apple down 3.5%, Netflix down about almost 4%, NVIDIA also taking a little bit of a punch, 2.7%, Google down 1%, Microsoft down 1%. AMD down about 6% today, Meta down 2%, and Amazon also down 1.3%. So the Magnificent Seven and the semiconductors had a pretty tough go today. But you know what? Who had a pretty good day today? That would have been the healthcare names. Look at the XLV today, just absolutely skyrocketing up 1.76%. Look at that candle. You don't see that too often on the XLV. You had names like Merck having a pretty impressive day, up 3.87. Let's not forget about Myrna today, who had a pretty outstanding day today, up 13%, closed right on the daily 200 simple moving average. Of course, all these names have been kind of beat up for the most part in 2023, so these guys are catching an early bid. We'll see if it's if it's rotation or if they're just starting to perk up a little bit here. But yeah, Myrna, Merck, Johnny John, Johnson and Johnson also having a pretty good day, closing right on the daily 200. This could be a pretty interesting one to pay attention to. Energy also having a pretty good day, up 1% on the day. Crude oil had a pretty nice move in general to go along with that. If that will load up here in a second. Okay, so crude did actually close red today. You do have a fresh daily squeeze on here. Crude oil wants to move lower. That could be interesting, but yeah, yields, 10-year yields up 2% today. Got a little bit of a recovery on those today, which is a headwind for stocks, and you definitely want to be aware of that. This does translate that the dollar had a nice upward move today, and the euro down. So, yeah, that's just just the way the market is today. We'll see if the rotation continues or if it's just a one-hit wonder kind of thing. But yeah, a little bit of a rocky start here to start the 2024 year off. Now, we did have some pretty good day trades today. SPY, I want to talk to you about the Apple downgrade. I apologize. I almost got a little bit ahead of myself, so just bear with me. Apple, so why the downgrade by Barclays? Well, they said they are having lackluster iPhone volumes, and the iPhone 16 that's coming out soon is also supposed to be pretty lackluster. I mean, if you're honest with yourself, I mean, since the last two or three iPhone releases, they haven't really introduced anything new. Maybe they've upgraded the hardware, the cameras, the processor, etc. But as far as everything else goes, the innovation is just not quite there. So I get it. They're also saying that, there's a whole shenanigans with the iWatch or the Apple Watch, the iWatch, and the MacBook sales are pretty much, they should remain weak, and they are expecting a reversion in 2024 when most quarters were missed and the stock outperformed. They're wanting to see a little bit more of a balance there as far as things go. So let's get in to the day trades for today. Let's take a look at SPY. First of all, we took SPY calls at the get-go here. Let me pull up the ES here just so we can show it off a little bit. Now, this one was pretty fun to deal with. We had a nice little move to get going. Here, I gotta go all the way back here to 9:30. Here we go. Here's where we hit our bounce at about 47.75. This was definitely a key spot here. We went long on this liquidity support, and we took those calls from $1.40 all the way up to $1.80. So a good move on that. We also, once we came back down here, I went ahead and took a SPY put to see if we would break down. We started to nudge through that 47.75, 47.73 zone, but we eventually, support was support until it wasn't, and then we ultimately popped back up. So I did get stopped out on that, but at the same time, I went ahead and took a put credit spread on the SPX, and I took those from 80 cents to 40 cents. So a good 50% move, although I did have to buy it back, buy my runners back at break even there. So nothing too crazy, although if I did hold it and just risked it for the biscuit, then I would have gotten pretty hit. Would have seen a temporary red on my account, especially with this dip all the way down to 47.22. That would have been ugly. But those did eventually, close above the strikes there, which you would have made full profit on that. But went ahead and took those off at break even on the runners, but overall 50% trade on the SPX put credit spread. I did also end up taking a SPX put, the 47.30, right about here where we've started to break down below the opening range low here, and eventually the market did move lower, and those went from $2 all the way down to $4. So a nice 100% win on the SPX put. And then, of course, Tesla today was a little bit of a struggle bus. Did close flat on the day, and I went calls right near. We were in a little bit of a squeeze, and yeah, this is what I was looking at the 15-minute squeeze. I was looking for this 15-minute squeeze to try to turn around here, and I was seeing good momentum signals on the 1 minute, and it just couldn't translate over to the 5 minute. The 251 mark held as resistance, and we just couldn't break above. And in order for me to swing, I wanted to see a close above this, and I went ahead and took it off. Obviously, we had that buy program at the very end, which would have allowed me to stay in and swing it, but I went ahead and closed it for a little bit of a loss. So those actually went from $5.15, and I closed it for $3.20. So a little bit of pain there on that play, but it is what it is, and we move on. We'll see if Tesla can perk back up tomorrow. Of course, they had the delivery news, record Q4 deliveries. Just didn't do anything today with the with the broad market, overall broad market weakness, really outside of healthcare and energy and maybe some financials. Speaking of financials, this is the name that I am going to be looking at, and that is Bert B. This is my potential new play that was a pretty darn good winner in 2023, both on the options and shares. So I'm looking for Bert B to break out about this 363.42 level. You can see I got my levels already marked, and if we get that breakout, I'm looking for that 10-point move to retest the all-time highs. We got a nice daily squeeze. Trend is pretty good here, and just looking for continued momentum and aggression on Berkshire B. But financials in general look pretty darn good. So, and Bert B has been one of my favorite names to trade. JP Morgan obviously having a good move here, 172.17. So yeah, all right, let's take a look at some names that I'm still holding, specifically with Microsoft. Microsoft's still a little bit of a headache here, but it is still structurally sound. It continues to hold 366.78, which was the prior lifetime high breakout before it broke out back in November. And as you can see, we've tested it quite a few times, and support continues to hold here. And if we continue to hold, that sounds good to me. My key level has not broken down, so I'm still holding the 380 calls that expired in the January monthly expirations. I'm looking for a push up to retest that high at 384, but we got a little bit of work to do. In the meantime, hopefully we don't get another. If we don't get another tech sell-off tomorrow or in the next day or two, I'll continue to hold that position on. So be on the lookout for that if I change plans on that. But all right, that's going to be today's episode of the Daily Squeeze. I appreciate you listening in. And if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me at fuzz@stockdaz.com. Or if you're in the Discord, just feel free to shoot me a DM, and I'll be happy to take a look. But DMs on the Discord are definitely quicker. But yeah, have a good rest of your day. If you have not submitted a trading plan, be sure to do that. It is a new year, so everybody's slate is cleared, and we start anew. Be sure to be working on your yearly goals also for the year, not just the the end of year goals. Treat it as a business. Have your quarterly goals and anything that you can think of. Have that business plan written down. As for me, I'm focusing in on account growth. I'm also focusing on overall market trends and paying attention to what I see, not versus what I think. So take what the market gives you and play the market that way. So yeah, I got my stuff written out. I hope you do too, or you're at least starting to. But yeah, here's to a good year. Good to be back here with the Daily Squeeze, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.